Hello and welcome to this week's Painhass non-owners support group, where we get together, we hold hands, and we pray to the footy gods that Painhass behaves like a normal human being this week and not the machine that we know he is capable of being. Last week we were rewarded with some rain up in Brisbane that put those offloads away for 1 week at least and kept him to a still pretty damn good, but reasonable score that us non-owners are not hurt too bad by. Hopefully this week we might not get the rain, but the lower minutes, maybe, perhaps, hopefully. Something anyway that keeps us in the game. Although, given my overall rank of 32,000, how much in the game I am, we'll debate that. Last week, meh. Um, I have a bit of a bone to pick with Mitch in his video earlier this week where he was raging about his disastrous 900 and whatever it was, early 900 score. It was a disaster, a terrible score, and here I am looking at my 899 thinking, hey, that's not bad, right? That's okay, we did that. Yeah, we can work with that. Different expectations when you're up at the top and when you're struggling, I guess. But yeah, well, look, it was a reasonable week. Kind of knew going into it wouldn't be that great with obviously a lot of money. Sitting on the bench, the Storm. I was really kind of banking on the Storm. Um, Grant, Munster, Howarth coming through. They didn't. Grant a bit more, hopefully back to normal-ish. Like if that can be his more standard game, and then throw some more attacking stats, try assists on top of that. That great. Munster seems like he's on the verge of producing for fantasy, and just kind of hasn't. But I mean, I still have faith. Like he's still Cam Munster. He'll come good eventually, right? Hopefully, perhaps. Um, Generally everything else I think very kind of standard. So, not a lot to talk about last week. It's fairly kind of last week and this week, it feels a lot like kind of round one and two did, where there's quite a few good buys out there, but not a lot of burning sells. Like I think there's quite a lot of people out there that you can sell. But in normal years, I would say normal years, in other years, in other weeks, you might want to hold on to them. You might want to give them another week. Could easily, go either way. So, um, for my trades this week, I've gone the very similar thing that I think a lot of people are doing. Um, Bringing in some of these cheapies. So I've got Jenkins and Katonga. I haven't sorted out my bench and looping and stuff fully yet, but currently Jenkins and Katonga in for um Sandon Smith and Yongi. Again, Smith and Yongi, they're not burning cells. Yongi, I feel sorry for him. Like he looks decent. Like I think he runs the ball hard and kind of feels like there's points in him, but with the way Parrot are going, probably not anytime soon. So, he's an easy sell if you need to sell somebody. And Sandon Smith again, like, does he have some more money to make? Yes. Um, but that 20 is going to sit in his rolling average for a while. So, you know, yeah, he'll make money, but some of these other cheapies should make money quicker. So it's an okay trade. Like it's again, not burning. You don't have to. I've banked 3 trades already this year, so I don't feel too bad about making trades like that. If you have max traded, maybe you want to think about kind of pumping the brakes a bit and, you know, if you don't have to trade, don't trade. But like it's fine. Like I think the kind of guys that we've got to bring in should be good. So perfectly fine trades to do. Um, this week as well, like there's not a whole lot. You've watched my videos before. I like to have a kind of a topic of the week type thing, a talking point to kind of go through rather than just talk about my team and my players or, who to buy, who to sell this week. Jamie has, watched Jamie's buy, wholesale sell videos. He'll tell you everything you need to know about all these guys. I like kind of just having more general topics about making trades and what it means. And last week, the big topic was obviously Payne Haas, and it got a bit controversial, maybe some spicy comments down below. They were fun. Nothing like that this week. Probably be a much shorter video. Definitely not as controversial. But I did put it out in the private group to be, is there anything to kind of, topics that might be worth kind of talking about? And one question that came up, and I can't remember who asked it, apologies, was, should we be looking to upgrade to guns or still looking for value? And that's a really good question because I don't know if anybody actually has the answer for it. Like it's the age-old um, fantasy dilemma in a lot of cases is do we load up on guns? Do we prioritize points or do we prioritize cash generation? Or do we try and get the middle ground of both? And that, the middle ground, the mid range, as we know, can be a minefield that when it comes off, it's great, but when it doesn't, it kind of sets you back in both ways. You're not getting big points and you're not generating cash. Um, so what I so I don't necessarily have an answer, but what I thought at least would be interesting was to kind of look at compare this year and last year with um cash gen and kind of what it means because I think we've all got the impression that we're making a ton of cash this year, but when you compare this year to last year, and I did this very quickly, um, pulling out top 10 scores, top 10 team value off footy statistics. I haven't really analyzed this in any way, so this is all kind of off the top of my head. So don't be surprised if we're not going to reach a conclusion of any sort. Hopefully, we'll just talk and it kind of makes sense. And the way I kind of approach these is I want you guys to think about this as well. Like just, I'm not saying one or I'm not trying to tell you um, what's the right way or the wrong way. It's just here's some information, do with that as you will. But, you know, it's actually quite crazy when you look at it. Last year's winner had a total value of 13.6 million. This year's leader already, I mean, we have somebody over 12 million already. Like we're over halfway, well over halfway to reaching last year's team value after 4 weeks. And yeah, that's mad. And I'm not quite sure what that means. I think you know, it feels like, well, that means we're going to have a much, by the end of the year, we're going to have a much larger team value. So will we have much stronger teams? Yeah, probably. Well, you'd assume so. We have more guns, sure. Um, but what does that mean for now? Like, does it mean that, well, our cash is great, we should be loading up on the guns? Or does it mean that, I mean, the cash gen is so good that if you don't keep up with that cash gen, then are you going to fall behind? And there's always that balancing act of uh keeping the points going because yes, we still need to keep score. I mean, if you look at the averages, like the average scorer, so top scorer, top leaderboard averaging almost 1,000 points a week. Last year's average was 873. Now this also includes the origin weeks where you're only playing 13, etc. So it's not a fair comparison, but definitely shows we're scoring higher. I picked out a random team, the 63rd place team from last year, and this year, 600 points difference over 4 weeks, 150 points a week. Again, that's kind of crazy, right? Like just the difference, and maybe it does, and like I said, I haven't formulated an answer at all for this, but maybe this does affect how we play things, going forward. Um, it's something to think about. I think it's definitely interesting. Something to consider. The other thing that kind of stood out to me was, in this top 10, we had somebody in set who is almost, like 500k team value behind the winner, almost a million short of the team in eighth. I'm pretty sure that was Bevan from the private group. So, hey, Bevan. Um, but, in amongst the leaders with a much lower team value. So it kind of goes to show that there is some leeway. Like if you're getting the points, however you get them, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, maybe there is opportunity to forego cash gen at various times just to bank the points. There was a big talking point at the start of the year, Isaiah Yo from various places, do you get him, do you not? And some other people had some, very strong thoughts that he's not, like he wasn't a good buy because there was no value. You're buying what you're paying for. You can only really go down in value. Um, and there's risk in that. There always is. That if you've got too much of your team kind of capped, then yeah, even if you are scoring well, maybe you do find yourself behind in the value later on. Um, is it advantageous to buy somebody cheaper who can provide the same number of points? Of course, that's like the key part of the game is finding those players. But how do you balance? Do you? I mean, there was a question in the on one of the YouTube videos. If I can find it, I did have it. Sorry, come on. Um, Ewan Jenkins or Couchman and Cantor Wong. And that's just the classic dilemma, right? That's just the classic question. Do I get do I go for a gun and a cheapie or two mid-rangers? And there just isn't an answer. Like I don't know what the I mean, you could have your opinions on this specific trade. Um, but I'm kind of less thinking about specifically these people, but just that overarching question of gun and cheapie or mid-range and mid-range. And I just think you have to like look at it individually. Like as I talked about in some of the other videos where I tried to kind of go through like what makes a good trade. Like what do you look for in people that you bring in? How does it how do you feel about it afterwards, depending on how they've done? And for these instances, both can work. Um, the issue runs where if the mid rangers have no value. So that's the kind of thing I guess I'd look at most of all is how much value does the two mid rangers have, and does it make it worthwhile? Because you can go right, Isaiah Yo, he's a bit cheaper now, maybe has 5 points of value or something in him, but you're not buying him for that. You're just buying him because he's Isaiah Yo. He's priced at just under 60. He'll score around 60. The cheaper you're getting him because you want cash generation. And then with these guys, it's about, well, number one, can they replicate the scoring? They're, Couchman or Kant and Wong aren't going to score as well as Isaiah Yo, most likely. But if they can approach it based on their price, that might be a better scoring. And the other question, when you're going gun and cheapie, do you need to play your cheapie? Might also be something to consider. Because there's a world where Couchman and, Kant or Wong outscore these two, plus make a bit more money, given that they're still, if depending on what they're priced at and what they're scoring, etc. So it's it does come down to your style a little bit. How you how you generally approach it. And, you can look at it of like, right, this year I'm going to avoid these kind of mid-rangey people and I'm just going to get the guns because we've got so much cash. A lot of these cheapies should make a ton of money pretty quickly. So I'm just going to load up on guns and I'm going to keep my cheapies and then I'll upgrade to, on more guns later on. And I'm just going to try and avoid this whole 500k ish kind of quagmire that we sometimes get stuck in. But then we've had guys in that, like Nafua White. We talked a lot at the start, like, Siwa Wong at the start, um, a kind of a cheaper mid-ranger, Nafahu White. There's really dangerous price where if they don't get the minutes, if they don't get the role, it can be a bit of a disaster. But they've come out and absolutely smashed it. So if you pick the right mid-rangers, I mean, Couchman, if he gets minutes, he can be like a 50. Can he be a 55 guy compared to Yo as a 60 plus guy? For that price difference, is Couchman worth it? Right? Like can he provide enough of a close to Yo's points that you can make up the difference elsewhere? So it's all about like we talked about before, break it down, think about what you think they're going to score, what they're priced at, the value that that might give, and then make your decisions from there. But yeah, like I said, I don't think I've particularly got to a point in all of this, but it did really kind of you know stand out. If and people have, I know a lot of people have mentioned it. Even just looking at your own team, it's like, wow, I've got so much more money. Like it's very common and really, really stands out. And could maybe be interesting to kind of track this. That does it kind of start evening out because the more we do buy guns, the less the value will rise. If we're starting to get people who are priced at the top and maybe they've got a few points of value, then this slows down, maybe it normalizes. Um, but yeah, definitely looks like it's going to be a bit of a kind of a race to get those big bank balances. And yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Hopefully you did too. Like I said, there's not a lot of really burning questions this week, so yeah, something to think about. Have a look at this stuff yourself and yeah, see what it means if it changes anything in your strategy. Yeah, up to you to kind of interpret. Um, cool. Yeah. Uh, I think that'll do on that. Let's have a look at some of the questions on YouTube videos. A lot of the questions are very similar and the stuff that we've talked about of, who do I buy, who do I play? So probably not a lot of interesting interpretations you can give here because I don't like, in general, like I said before, kind of telling people, yes, make this trade or yes, play this guy. It's up to you. And I just think a lot of the decisions this week are kind of very, yeah, they're kind of very touch and go, 50-50 player dependent on which cheapie you want or, who you want to sell. So we'll have a look. We'll go through. Cleary, captain this week. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to captain Cleary as well. So no Haas, obviously. Cleary will have monster scores in it. And hopefully this is one of those weeks. So, it's a risk, but well, I mean, it's crazy at me. We're 4 weeks into the season and we're saying captain and Nathan Cleary is a risk. Like, that's insane. He played, even though he's played, not great the first 2 weeks, not counting the head knock game, he still averaged 60, supposedly not playing well, and the Panthers not really clicking. So, look, he's an absolutely fine captain. And yeah, hopefully this is the week he gets a couple of tries and we push towards that ton. See where will Teddy praise Origin? Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously Edwards being injured, Latrell coming back in the centers, Turbo's hurt. there's definitely a world where Teddy plays Origin, and that does kind of affect our planning a little bit. With the the Roosters. The Roosters have a terrible buy schedule for Origin players, but a really, really good one for non-Origin players. I hope I said that the right way. So, whether or not Teddy becomes a buy shortly is really dependent on whether or not he plays Origin. So yeah, could play in a lot of thinking there. That's definitely a video we'll do, and probably shortly. Probably it is about the time to start thinking about Origin and what we need to do and start then in terms of planning. I think a lot of people have kind of noticed that their mids are very, very Origin heavy. Especially if Terrell May makes Origin, if Horsburgh makes Origin, obviously Haas and Yule will, um, Connor Watson probably will, those guys. So there's an awful lot of mids out there that are very highly owned that could all be out. So at some point in the next couple of weeks, need to start thinking about that. Not necessarily making trades for Origin, but at least coming up with a little bit of a plan of what you of how you're going to attack it. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Really want the trail. Yeah, yeah. We can't get him yet, but like I was big on him in the preseason. I would have, if he was fit, I probably would have started with him, even at his price. I was ready to take that gamble. But yeah, like fingers crossed. If he plays a few weeks at center, gets up to speed, loses a bit of cash, gets dual position, and then moves back to fullback, awesome. Can't wait. This is the type of, 2, 3 out of Jenkins, Egan, because I just, yeah, fine. Pick two. They're all good. Probably just look at your coverage. Do you need the wing fullback for Jenkins, or are you happy with a couple of edges? But yeah, totally up to you. That question, yeah, completely up to the individual on which one you go. Um, yeah, I don't know. One Wong having five roosters is just too many. Well, like it's fine, but we need to think about that origin period, like I said. So the people of, I mean, whoever those five are, like the likes of Toya, he might start peaking at some point, so we can move on. Um, Wong and White, if you've got those guys, I mean, they're still killing it, but if the minutes do start to become a problem, people you move away from, and Connor Watson, the origin stuff makes a difference. So it's probably somebody you're going to want to sell when we get to the buy period. Can't take Wong knowing he was cheap at the start, doesn't feel right. Yeah. Um, like it's hard, but you have to kind of make the decisions. And as I was kind of trying to talk about last week as well with the Haas thing of ignoring what's happened in the past, ignoring what prices they might have been in the past. Just right now, if you look at his price right now, do you think he's worth it? Like, is there still value right now? If the answer is yes, then get him, right? Like, you know, if it's no, then don't. But we shouldn't, and it's very hard, it's the human nature in us, but we shouldn't take the previous mistakes. Don't allow previous mistakes. And we can say for pretty much all of us, we kind of thought Wong was a bit of a trap and didn't get him, have made mistakes. So don't follow that up on with another one, right? By either not taking him if you think he's worth it, or the other option, which was kind of what we are talking last week about as well, which is, if you're so disappointed and missing on somebody that you get them at a price that they're maybe not worth. Not that I'm saying Haas wasn't worth what he was buying, but it's at least worth that analysis of, you know, is he still worth a buy right now rather than, God damn it, I'm annoyed I don't have him, so I'm just going to bring him in. So Like I don't, and yeah, is Wong a must buy or something? No. Is he a decent buy? Yeah, probably. If he keeps those minutes up, but yeah, will he is another question. Um, Hammy Sally takes minutes from Couch Egan. Yeah, I mean, and we can't tell Egan's minutes off 1 week, right? I think Couchman will play what they want him to play. Egan may be a bit inflated, so we can wait a week. If you're unsure, wait a week, see what he kind of does this week, and then make decisions from there. Who should I get first, Sharp or Farmer? Fletcher Sharp. Like I'm still not convinced. The way I kind of approach fantasy, and this has certainly not worked for me this year, um, is like I put a lot of stock into what's happened previously. And with players like Fletcher Sharp, when there isn't that previously to judge on, certainly not playing in the halves, it's kind of really difficult to get a gauge. Like he's looked great so far. I had him up. Do I still have him up? Yeah, here he is. Um, yeah, like 61 average. Like, is that sustainable? No, surely not. Can't be. Priced at 48, it just feels too high for me. Um, like the way that he plays, there's no kick meters. Tackles could kind of be anything, between 8 and 27. Like a 3 game sample size just isn't a good sample size. He's obviously amazingly talented. He's going to have attacking stats, but he's the type of player that must have, 20s in his game. There'll just be games where they get overrun. He doesn't get a try save, or he's killing it on the turnover tackles. Like that can't is unlikely to be sustainable. Um, he's going to make some tackles. He'll miss a few. He'll get his tackle bust, but there's going to be games where he scores in the 20s or whatever. And when he's priced at 50, that feels really hard for me to be really uh you know enthusiastic about. But it might be one of these cases which definitely happen where like he just is this 61 average, or at least high 50s average, and he kind of just bucks the trend in terms of what we kind of expect out of a 5'8" who doesn't kick the ball. But to me, it's like, he's kind of going as like kind of prime Cam Munster, and then you can get the real Cam Munster for a fair bit cheaper. So why wouldn't you do that? You know, but yeah, Sharp to me is one that's probably I'm just going to let pass. And if he continues to kill it and you bring him in, amazing. But you just feel at some point he's going to have those lower games, and like, is there any value in buying him at 50? Pretty much, it would be hard. And this is where you can kind of, like we were talking earlier about that value, you can kind of limit yourself a bit, getting somebody around that price point where if they're not going to be a keeper, a gun, then they're not making you any money and they're just sitting at that, you're getting what you might get what you paid for, or even a bit lower, and yeah, you're not going to be very happy with it. But like, I wouldn't stop anybody from getting him. It's just I'm concerned is probably the way I would put it. And Bo Farmer, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, he's very solid if you want somebody that's very solid. Again, ranking the cheapies, they're all good. Top good, question mark. Buy, sell. Yeah, like he's really good. If you've got him, keep him. If you'd want to buy him, fine. But yeah, top good, question mark, yes. Which series should I start? Yeah, take your pick. Take your pick. World War. Seems like Walsh to Sharp. Like Walsh, I mean, we I've thought about this before as well. Like as fantasy players, we have very unintuitive ways of kind of judging players. And it does make sense, but if you told people who didn't play fantasy how you kind of analyze players, where it's like, I've got somebody and he's been doing really badly. I want to sell him. That makes sense. But on the other side, where you've got somebody's doing really badly, I don't own him. I can't wait to buy him. It's just that it just doesn't make as much sense. And trying to like combine the two is kind of strange because yeah, like I can totally understand if you brought Walsh in at, you know, 600 odd K. What was he priced at to start the season? 700. Overcase 700 and now sitting at 523 and not even having the excuse of a, head knock or an injury, just a good old fashioned legitimate -1, then yeah, obviously you know, you're not happy and you want to get rid of him. But there's a lot of other people eyeing this off and seeing he's priced at 39, probably go down a little bit again this week. And, you only need to go back last year. I mean, he was 700K for a reason last year, right? 50 average. That did have an injury game, so take out the injury game. 54 average. You get 54 average priced at 39. That's a great buy. Um, so yeah, if you have to sell him, or if you want to sell him, I mean, I can't stop you. And if you just think there's no recovering from kind of where he's been, then fine. But yeah, if you sell him and then a lot of other people jump on, and then he's back up into the 600Ks in a couple of weeks because he grabs a couple of tries and, has a couple of the games that he's capable of, because that's why you bought him for 700K at the start of the season, then you're just going to be doubly upset. So this is you know, try not to compound a mistake by making another mistake on top of it. But and yeah, like comparing Walls to Sharp, like I don't know if you can say for sure, is Sharp going to outscore Walsh from now on? Like maybe, but for an extra hundred and whatever that was, 1,120K, I'm not that sure that he does. So yeah, I told Walsh and probably going to look to buy him pretty soon. Um, both Wong and Kant, yeah, yeah, either again, not can't really tell you what to do. Um, like there's still minutes concerns over Wong, but he's played well enough. He's probably locked it in. Thomas Kant, does he play 80 minutes until Lucas comes back? Maybe. Does he split time with Frizzell on the edge when KPP's back? Maybe. But yeah, no, I think they're both fine. Whoever you want. Do I get Mitchell? Yeah, not quite yet, but he is on the buy list. Gilbert to Couchman, is that trade okay? Yeah, fine. If you've had enough of Gilbert, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I talked a lot about Gilbert in I think the first video I did or the first weekly video I did around, don't overreact to his 65. And I would say the same thing around don't overreact to his 34, 35 or whatever it was. He's not going to miss 10 tackles every week. Um, he's still probably that mid 40s guy that he was before the season and after the 65 and after the 34 or whatever. He's still going to come back to that mid 40s, high 40s. But yeah, if you've had enough of him, that is fine. Sharper Couchman, yeah, again, I've spoken about them. Barnett to Couchman, yeah, it's fine. Been unbelievable that the person who scored the round four high score didn't have Haas. Well, that's because he's part of the weekly Payne Haas non-owner support group, and he must have prayed a lot harder than I did to the gods who rewarded him with that high score. That is actually pretty cool. It gives us hope. It gives us hope that there is life beyond Payne Haas. Um, well, there may be some more questions here. Let's do these quickly. Plus on Metcalf and Gilbert for Sharp and Egan. I mean, yeah, you can sell these two. I'm holding Metcalf this week, mostly just for the looper. and then we'll kind of reevaluate. But yeah, if you want to sell them, that's fine. Kind of talked about Sharp and Egan. Tino, a sell or a hold? Minutes. I mean, I'd rather have Yo than Tino. Is it worth a trade? I mean, it's kind of up to you. Tino, I think I spoke about him a while ago as well, where he kind of has this really weird scoring profile. It was Tino or Stefano, I can't remember, where they'll just randomly have games where they score really low for no reason, but then they'll have monster games with scoring tries and stuff. So um like I don't think he's not a must sell or anything. But if you think there's value in going to Yo, like I wouldn't stop you. But generally these are the type of trades I don't like doing. But I would never have picked Tino ahead of Yo in the first place, to be fair. Hopgood to Cam. Oh, like what? No. Why would you trade out Hopgood? Don't do that. Um, don't do that. Don't trade Hopgood. I mean, Campbell's great, but is that how much of an upgrade is that, really, to be fair? Um, and like right, like that, Campbell's score last week, if he didn't get that intercept, he was scoring like 40, 42, or something like that. Um, like he has the Titans. It's kind of like Brimson as well. The Titans attack. I think they will sort it out and they will score better. Campbell obviously had that big game in the middle, but he kind of went 40 odd, 80, 40 odd, plus then a 22-point try or whatever the intercept was. Um, so yeah, he's still a bit up and down, I think, while they sort out that their attack. But yeah, if you want to get Campbell, absolutely, but not from Hopgood. We got rid of Gilbert and Starling for Campbell and Hubner. Is Starling a sell? I mean, if you think he's not getting the minutes anymore, Paddy's eating into the role and stuff, I guess. Yeah, fine. Thought on Jesse Arthur's. Like I've never been a, I say can't say I've never been a fan of Jesse Arthur's as a player, but as a fantasy player, again, you just have to look at the stats. And he killed it at the start of the year, scoring tries. If he scores tries, he'll get decent points. But like here's a run of games at the start of last year, 28 with a try, 30 with a try, 22 with a try. Yeah, 49 decent, 21. You know, here 80-minute games, 18, 15, 21, 35, 27, 16, 12. Like if he's not scoring tries, and he's faced at 36. Like that is huge for for Jesse Arthur. So yeah, don't buy Jesse Arthur's is my take there. Sorry, I've got a bit of a something in the back of my throat. I've been talking for too long, so I guess we'll wrap this up. Who captain Haas or May? Is May safer? I'm not sure if May's safer. I'm captaining Cleary. Like if you brought in Payne Haas over the last couple of weeks, like you're doing it because you think he's going to because you wanted the captaincy. Like, you think he's going to be the best scorer and you want to captain him. Like that's why you would have brought him in, for priced at 70 and trading out the guys that you brought out. So if you've got Haas, I'm assuming you would do Haas, but like they're obviously both really good, right? And we can only guess. Bringing in Yo, trading out one of Fisher Horse. I mean, I guess, yeah, Fisher Harris, like, yeah, I guess if you absolutely had to do it, but again, it's asking those questions of whether or not it's worth the trade. But if you want to do it. That's fine. Like Fisher Harris is going to be extremely useful. We talked earlier about those mids, the mid problems we'll have over Origin. So having somebody like Fisher Harris could be extremely useful, especially if Horse plays Origin. You obviously will. So again, it's something to keep in mind. It's a bit early to be planning, but have it in the back of your head when you make these decisions. People really blaming you for their loss. Yep, that's one of the reasons why I hedge my bets on the on this type of stuff. I get enough abuse without people blaming me for telling them to do the wrong thing. So I just talk garbage for half an hour plus and not really give any straight answers, and then hey, people can't blame me for anything. All right, I think that'll do it. That's definitely gone on long enough. Remember to send your prayers to the gods for another Hass 60, and we'll regroup next week and see how we did. See ya.